I'm Amy VanTine. I'm the founder and CEO of RAD Advocates.
And I'm Heather Houze, the COO of RAD Advocates.
Amy, can you talk about how RAD Advocates began?
RAD Advocates began when I found myself in crisis and parenting a child with reactive attachment disorder. And once I got to safety and was viewing social media pages, I realized how many other families were in crisis. And I felt a calling to create some sort of change around that. And I reached out to 2 other mothers that I had met on the social media pages and took them both to coffee, and we had discussions, and we all kind of agreed. They validated of what I was feeling, that it was completely and ethically wrong of what parents are experiencing. And so from there, I just forged forward to create this nonprofit that continues to grow. And during that time, Heather came on pretty quickly right after that. And I want to say within 1.5 or 2 years, she became a pivotal part of getting our organization to the next level of growth.
How does that feel for you guys now? I mean, from the early days to now.
For me, it's crazy to see the change, like after finishing this big NAVRAD 23 experience, and we got a standing ovation. That was really
Awkward.
like,
It feels awkward.
was awkward and heart-wrenching. And I mean, honestly, in some ways it's a little scary because it's like, wow, they're really depending on us to create this change. But in the other way, like, I feel more fueled of like, bring it on.
Yeah.
Like, this movement is just beginning, and when all these parents get together and that power is created, change will happen.
Yeah, it's so exciting.
And so it's different than in the beginning, because I think in the beginning we were still having to create a name for ourselves, and we were having to build this reputation of what our intentions were with professionals, and you know, that we really are seeking the best interest of the child and the family, and trying to bridge that gap. I think between families and professionals, it's taken a while to kind of build up trust from both sides, the families and now professionals, but I think we're getting there. And I think that we often don't stop long enough to really reflect on where we have come in such a short time.
Yeah.
And that's exciting though. It's exciting to see the growth that has happened, because then it shows where it can go and where it will go.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And I think the standing ovation feels awkward, but I understand, like, they found a connection. And I remember thinking, when I talked to Amy for the first time on the phone and then I met her, I'm like, Amy, like, she's just a person.
Yes.
But it feels like you finally found the person that understands what you're going through, and that's instantly like, I just want to be your best friend. You know?
Yeah.
And I know that they get the experience and get to meet people here, but then to me it's like, wow, where we were year 1 with NAVRAD to where we are now is like, wow, there's a lot of people that not only need our help, but I've had several come up and say, I can't believe how many people are here.
Yeah.
And somebody else will follow with, how many more people don't know about it? And I'm like, yeah.
And to see that it's new people, like, I mean, we have a couple of members or previous attendees that have returned, and that is awesome. And they all had positive feedback of like, every year I get something different out of it, and you know, we'll be back again. But the number of newcomers is also shocking and heartbreaking, that there are that many more out there that still have never been or weren't aware of us. It's really sad to think about how many families are struggling.
Yeah.
But truly that there is a need.
Can you talk about how the 2 of you met?
Sure.
Do you remember that?
I remember it very clearly. How can you not remember meeting Heather?
I want to hear what you remember, because
Well, I remember with the membership call, when you were calling, asking for help, I actually took your call in a grocery store parking lot.
I was hiding
And
in
I
the bathroom.
thought-
I emailed you first, and I was hiding in the bathroom.
I thought it would have been like a quick 15-minute call, and so I was like, I'll just take this on the way to the grocery store.
Because you were a member before membership even was a thing.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
Correct.
as a RAD parent, I
Yeah.
don't think we mentioned that. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, early on, you know, when this was just really getting started, a lot of my calls that I would take would have to be in between kid pickup from school or in between my job at the time. So I thought, I have 15 minutes and I can do this quick call and just give this mom some information. And if anybody knows Heather, she can talk. And so I remember just sitting in the parking lot.
Rolling her eyes.
Like, no, I was not rolling my eyes, but it was like an hour or something later. And I was like, okay, wow. But Heather was really, I would say, I could feel her passion as well. It was like that same passion that I felt of like, this is not okay. Like, who says this is okay? And she was like, just give me the information, I could do it. So I could really tell that she was a bulldog and she knew how to advocate and she knew she was in crisis, but she was willing to hit the ground running. And so she was definitely ready. I think she called it probably like a perfect opportunity. I don't know what I'm trying to say. She called at the perfect time, I think, before she went into complete crisis.
Right.
And was able to get some resources from us and carry on with that.
Right.
And you were in the
I
bathroom.
was hiding in the bathroom so that no one would know I was talking on the phone. And I remember first I sent an email because I found somebody online that on Facebook or something that had mentioned, reach out to Amy at RAD Advocates. So I'm typing and I hit enter and sent it, but I wasn't done. So then I'm like, how do you explain this? You look like a lunatic.
We all
So
look
I
crazy, so it
come
doesn't
back and
matter.
I'm like, sorry. And I remember talking to Amy, and I had spoken with Forrest before that, and I wasn't able to get funding. That was my biggest hurdle, and I just knew that's where I wanted my son to go, but I didn't know how to do that. And that's when somebody said, reach out to Amy. So then we have a conversation, and we she connected me with, at the time, it was just, you walked me through and connected me with someone else from our area that had gone through this.
Right.
And then I remember the call of, he's coming home. And
Yes.
I remember being in a complete panic, and she said, okay, you're just panicked and it's okay. And I was like, okay. Like, it's the most soothing voice. Because I didn't even realize I was in a panic. I'm just like, he cannot come home. You know, I was just not ready. And she's like, okay, he doesn't have to. And I'm like, what? That's an option? I just always felt in this position as a parent, things were just always put upon me. I didn't know that I had a voice or an option in things. So to be told, no, he doesn't have to, or he can come home and we can, you know, do something else. And I'm like, oh,
I can do that. Yeah.
I can do that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember you came out to visit him in treatment.
When we dropped him
She
off, I
came.
met you
Yeah,
and
we
the
met when you
original
got to come
founders
to
and some husbands.
Colorado,
Right.
and we got to go out to dinner, and that was fun. But then when you came out
Yes.
again to visit him in treatment, we had coffee, and I think this was another changing moment for RAD Advocates, because we went and we had coffee, and at that time some changes were happening within RAD Advocates anyway, and Heather was like, I really want to give back, and how can I help you guys? And so at that time we were like, you know, okay, this is, you know, purely founded on volunteers and parents saying, I can't watch other people go through this either. It's just morphed into this, I mean, beautiful friendship.
Oh,
I
yes.
just love her. And
It's definitely interesting how it was like, it just turned into this. We kind of chuckle sometimes. I mean, it's by no means the Amy and Heather show, but there was a short period of time where it was like the Heather and Amy show because we didn't have any more volunteers. And
we didn't. It was literally her and I like calling each other in our jammies, 5 a.m, you know, showering, curling our hair. What can you do? Can you do this? And I'm just so grateful for her friendship. And that I get to walk alongside of her in this journey because she's a great partner. And our joke is she's my left hand man. Because if I said my right hand man, my husband would be upset. I thought I was your right hand man. So I'm like, you are. The Heather's my left hand man. Because whatever I'm challenged in, I think we complement each other very well. I think our personalities are very different. We're close enough that we can read each other. We know what each other's thinking before we say it, before it comes out, and we know, so we know how to support that way. And the areas that I'm challenged, she's able to, those are her strengths.
Right, and my challenges are your strengths.
Yeah.
But how would you describe what your days look like?
So typically get up first thing in the morning, check text or email for crisis. That's the first thing I do. And I know it is that you do too, because usually by 7 in the morning,
we've already
texting
communicated.
each other going, did you see that new lead that came in? Or I have a family in crisis, you have recommendations.
Right.
Or, so that's usually first and foremost. And then resolving that. And then we're usually booked with our member calls of.
But even between that, the early morning stuff that we do, then we go do the gym or whatever. We do
focus on self-care. That's
absolutely
something that we're really passionate about. So yeah, we'll get ready, do a little bit of self-care. I'm not gonna lie though, there's often times where I'm at the gym
on the
headphones.
That's okay.
Answering emails or something, because sometimes it is a very full day. The hard days I would think is when we have probably about 5 or 6 member calls. And so that's 5 or 6 hours of just families in crisis, and it gets hard sometimes hearing their hard places and trying to help brainstorm, so you become mentally exhausted.
Right, and I was gonna say, when you talked about our phone calls, even if they're an hour phone call with a member, there's almost always 30 minutes more just us. Often I will say the really cool thing is you may be working with me, but you're also getting Amy's brain or one of the other advocates' brains.
Because we'll debrief.
Right.
We'll be like, oh, I feel challenged on this, or what is your opinion on this, or am I not seeing this the right way?
And it's interesting that her and I both have a very different story. So we have our strengths in different areas, which is great. And then every time each advocate has had a different path. So we've gotten to experience that, even if it wasn't our path. So we're
learning the different paths.
Yeah, it's been shocking to me, from the founders to even the current advocates.
Yeah. But then you have to switch hats. That's the hardest part for me, because then it's like, okay, now that we've advocated, but now we have to switch into admin role. And how do I wear that admin hat and get my brain to switch over to numbers or to, website stuff or program development stuff? And so that's where it gets a little bit more difficult on a typical day. We try to be really good about scheduling one particular day a week where we can just focus on admin stuff, but it never fails. We get on and it's working with families in crisis, and so we may have, we're having great growth in lots of areas, but some of maybe the program development stuff and website stuff might be slacking, but it's really because we're just wearing so many hats. And first and foremost, we always want to put the families first of what they're experiencing and service our members the best we can. And we just have faith, and we know that when there's a need, the right person is placed. And Heather, Heather's a prime example of that. There was a need and she was placed. And so we know that as we continue to grow, that eventually, when you ask what a normal work day looks like, all of those positions will be filled with the right people to help this grow. This movement is going to grow, and it's going to keep creating change for families.
Can you talk about some of the people you've met along this journey?
And there's definitely connections made, and I love that. It's, again, I always say that this is like this weird club. That once you're a RAD parent, it does not matter your religion, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Like when you meet each other, it's like this bond.
Right, and I feel like RAD is the leveler, like puts us all on the equal playing field. We're all absolutely equal, doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter your financial status, it doesn't matter. I mean, we've all been there, and it's just shocking when you find your people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's great too, is RAD parents of meeting members and meeting them in person. You know they're your people. And when you meet and you hear how you've changed their life, and then you hear what they've done professionally. First of all, I want to say that change your life, that's hard for me to hear. When people come up and hug you and say, you've changed my life, you saved my life.
One of the members that I'm working with, the family, the dad, I don't have a lot of interaction with dad. He's at work, so I'm mostly on phone calls or Zooms with mom and treatment placement. So I got to meet him, and he said, I just want you to know, I think that you've single-handedly saved our family and our marriage. And I was like, okay, that felt so emotional. And then he said, today, after we had our breakout sessions, he said, I've respected what you do, but I had no idea you were still parenting a child with RAD. How do you do this? And I said, it's therapeutic. You know, it helps me stay focused. Like, this is, no. It's just, I don't know. But I thought,
it also reminds you you're not alone.
Right. Because even knowing I'm not alone, there are so many days, because my family does not look like the neighbor's family. You know, we go out our front door and sometimes the crazy's leaking out.
The "you saved me" comments they're powerful. They're definitely powerful. For me, it fuels me. It helps remind me why I did this. But then I also feel very like non-deserving of like, it's not me. They did the hard work. I mean, they're the ones that really saved themselves, because a lot of these families come to us in such crisis, and they trusted us and they become vulnerable with us.
Right.
That's their work. But I think it just shows like the pain that families are feeling. And it's crazy to me that outside world, professionals, society can't see the desperation that we're in, that families are in, and the support that's needed. That really, when they feel supported, they feel like their life has been saved. We're here to empower them to find their voice so they can they can move on. Yeah. This doesn't feel like work to me. I feel like very blessed that I get to do something.
The database.
Okay, yeah.
Sometimes the admin stuff.
The database and the marketing, and how are you gonna?
At least we don't have. Get your
blogs
blogs in. We don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Thank you to the blogging volunteers.
Because that's super important.
They've saved our lives.
Yes, and our educational committee for creating slides and
yes.
doing all that stuff. So that's when it was hard. But other than that, I mean, we feel very blessed to be able to do this. I know I do. It doesn't. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else.
I agree.
Or with a better partner.